We're ready here. I'd like to get started. A panelist here that I'm really excited to hear from, and I think they're going to share a lot of jewels of wisdom with us. So my name is Bill Zimmerman. I'm a lecturer in the College of Communications, and I'm really excited to hear what they're about to communicate to us today. Because I'm a social media guy, I encourage you, hashtag Penn State Startup. Use it frequently during the talk. Share this wisdom with the Twitter sphere and help generate some excitement around Startup Week. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my panel here. Going to make some quick introductions. We have Nova Lorraine, Rich Thompson, and Hillary Murray. But I'm going to let them tell you about themselves and their entrepreneurial pedigree. Is that a good way of putting it here? Lorraine, Nova, can you start it off?
Sure. I actually started off in academia. I was pursuing my PhD in clinical psychology before I realized I had a love for fashion and wanted to help the world through that route. And so I finished up with my master's and moved to New York and studied at FIT. And shortly after that, I spent about 3 years in corporate America studying entrepreneurship and marketing, and made my way back to New York to launch my fashion brand. Along that journey, I started consulting with other founders and creatives and noticed that there was a need in the market for a media platform for creative entrepreneurs, those that wanted to impact their local, regional, or international community through their gift or their passion. And so because there wasn't that many outlets at the time, I decided to launch Rain Magazine. And at the time, I had just had my 4th child and just opened a store in Westchester County, New York. And so it was really a passion project. It was my way of getting back to the roots of really helping people. And from the beginning, I had the challenge to inspire millions. And it was through storytelling. And I felt that if I could find a way to reach people through visual storytelling and also print in text form to help them never give up on their goals and obstacles, because I went through a lot of challenges as an entrepreneur, and to continue to pursue their dreams, then I've accomplished my mission. And so right now, Rain this year will be in all U.S. airports in the Delta and United Airlines business and travel lounges. We have an exclusive segment on Bold TV, which is a Facebook Live broadcast show. And we're launching our podcast series soon. We have events in New York City celebrating each issue because we're quarterly. And we're also in pre-production for our in-studio nationally broadcasted show. And the goal is to continue to offer a variety of platforms to share those stories. And the more people we're able to reach, the more people we're able to help. And the ethos of Rain is all about storytelling. And it's to get to the root of what makes that person authentic and different. And our goal is always to look for the next big names in fashion, culture, and technology. So we see ourselves as sort of the Sherlock Holmes and finding the next big names. So some of the people that we were fortunate enough to work with and interview early on include Kendall Jenner, giving her first fashion cover, Fitbit before anyone even knew what wearable tech was, Daymond John, Mark Cuban, Priyanka Chopra. Those are just a few people that we featured in Rain before they became household names. And that's me.
And I want to know where your 4 kids are.
Well, half of them are home.
The other half, you don't have any idea?
The other half are in college, too, so I can relate to you guys.
Ladies first.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Hi, my name is Hillary Murray. I'm an OA graduate, Penn State. Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
I studied international politics and public relations, and from Penn State, I went to work on Wall Street. So I worked at Lehman Brothers. My first week on the desk, they went bankrupt. So it was very, very interesting, yes. So I got hired by Barclays Capital, and then I decided I wanted to go to a distressed debt and restructuring hedge fund in New York City. And while I was there, I kind of realized I was making a lot of money for everybody else and not making, a lot of money for myself. But the more important issue was that I wasn't doing anything that was helping people live healthier lives or changing the world in any way. I was just, helping Blockbuster figure out their problems. So I went to business school at UVA in 2011. I graduated in 2013. And while I was walking through Whole Foods in Charlottesville, Virginia, I saw a cold pressed organic juice on the shelf that I had only seen in New York City, and that only had delivery, and it was a 3-day shelf life, and then you had to throw it out. Blueprint. Yeah, I saw you mouth it. Blueprint. And in the middle of Whole Foods, I started, learning about this high pressure processing technology that I was reading on the side of their bottle, and asked the person stocking the shelf if it was really selling in Charlottesville for $9.99, because Charlottesville is a college town, and $9.99 for a juice is pretty expensive. Your Naked and Odwalas are like $2 something. And he said he couldn't keep them on the shelves, that they were going so quickly. So I bought six Blueprint juices. It was my most expensive trip to Whole Foods ever at that point. And in Virginia, you can buy booze, so that's telling you something. And I decided right there in the middle of the Whole Foods shopping aisle that I was going to create Lumi, which stands for Love You Mean It. So we love you, we mean it. We want you to love yourself, the people you care about. So we make organic products that are good for you and have minimal pasteurization methods. So there's no heat pasteurization. We only use water pressure to preserve the nutrients and flavor and just give you a real product the way nature intended. So that's me.
Now, Hillary, I understand that love you mean it was something you said to your friends.
Yeah,
I wondered if you could say it the way you would have said it to a friend.
Love you, mean it.
Oh, I thought we'd be like, love you, mean it, or something like that.
No, we would just say love you, mean it, Lumi, and that's what we'd say. So it started in Heister Hall. Has anyone lived in Heister Hall? You know where that is? In Paul? Okay, good. I mean, it's still there, I think. But anyway, so that's where we started it, actually, and we always would say it to each other. And on the trading floor, I was known as a Lumi girl because I was just really happy and bubbly. And at 6 a.m., I'd come in the floor. I'd be like, hey, good morning. And these, older men would kind of be like, why are you so energetic right now? But that's the word, and it's an acronym that has become more meaningful than just where it started here at Penn State. So.
Yeah, and a great name before you had the product.
Yeah.
And where's your child at?
Well, I have two. One is in New York City with her dad, and the other one's outside with Jessie, the babysitter. She's a wonderful babysitter.
Great. So 2 moms, right? So I have to be careful what I say or do.
Okay.
Moms are very entrepreneurial. My name is Richard Thompson, and I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So there's different levels of entrepreneur, and at some point we'll have that whole discussion of different levels. But I was just born an entrepreneur. I didn't know anything different from day one. So I actually had my first business when I was a sophomore in high school, and sold it when I was a sophomore in college. So from there, I just kept doing crazy things, and today, I've done okay, I guess. So the fact is that I've looked at various ideas and ventures, and looking at some of these young people here, is that you just have to believe in your dream. This lady over here is doing something really interesting because of the media side of making that dream have more information to it so that you can think about things. And here's somebody that's actually done it, and that says, here's a need in my life and my family's life, and went out and found a better way to do something. So those are just great entrepreneurs that make something happen with their passion. So when you have a passion about something, you don't have to have a lot of money, you don't have to have a lot of knowledge about it, because now you can get everything on Google, so you can just figure it out really quick, right? Back in my day, I had to go to the library and actually open a book and look at it, and the book was probably 10 years old anyway in the library. So it was just a lot of hard work. And everybody approaches entrepreneurialism at a different level and with kind of a different direction. But you have to find that thing that you love and you want to do, that you're really passionate about, and then just figure out a way to do it, right? Is that one of my first bigger deals that I did is that I decided that I was going to be the pasta king of North America. And I said, okay, well, how do you do that? So I spent a lot of time researching every pasta manufacturer in North America, where they were, what kind of products they had, where they sold it, what the pricing was, what the raw materials were, et cetera, et cetera. I took all that information and I put it into a report, but I turned that report into a report in Italian. Then I went to Italy. And when I went to Italy, I went to see the 32 largest pasta producers in Italy. But I had a document that had the whole U.S. pasta industry in Italian. So when I showed up to these guys and said, hey, I've got this information, they welcomed me, they treated me as a king, they wanted to be my partner right away because I had all the information that they couldn't get, right? So I went out and I borrowed $52 million, and I did not have $52 million to start the first company. And so anyway, so what? I signed on the line. I never did tell my wife that I signed for $52 million. Anyway, it all turned out okay, I guess. But anyway, signed up, and pretty soon we built 4 pasta plants in the U.S. We built 1 in Europe. We took the whole thing public with Goldman Sachs for a few bucks, and then we sold it for a lot more money to ConAgra Foods. And that was just kind of the first one. Then pretty soon we were doing something else, and we used to own Meow Mix, the cat food company. Pretty soon, then we had Fresh Pet, the fresh refrigerated company. And this will give you some hope, right? Some ideas that you can do. Fresh Pet. Who ever thought making fresh food for dogs and cats would be an interesting thing, right? Well, it followed the trends of humanization of stuff like this for humans, and the trend that the dog didn't live in the yard anymore. Dog lived in the bedroom, right? How many people here have a dog that lives in the house or somewhere close to the bedroom? See? Oh, yeah. So that trend, why wouldn't you, if you're feeding your family better, why wouldn't you feed your dog better? So we started making Fresh Pet. And in 2007, so from 2007 to 2014, in 7 years, we took the company public on NASDAQ for just under $500 million in 7 years. So you don't have to spend your whole lifetime doing something. You just have to have all the elements stack up. Part of that's financing, manufacturing, people, because without the right team, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to fail. So there's a lot of things you have to line up. But if you've done it for so many years, you kind of know how to do it. So the latest thing I did after I ran Fresh Pet for a few years in public company, but I am not a public guy. I don't follow the rules really well, and most entrepreneurs don't follow the rules very well. So if you're kind of like me, I said I'm not going to go quarter to quarter and tell you what I'm going to do next quarter, because I don't even know what I'm going to do next quarter, let alone tell a public market what I'm going to do the next quarter. So the fact is that I left Fresh Pet, and I raised a few more bucks, and I started a company called Factory. So Factory is an innovation center and scale-up center for food, beverage, and pet food companies. So companies like this is how we fund the companies. They actually have to move to Bethlehem and move in the building. But we have all the back-end services that helps them grow up sooner or faster with less mistakes. So we're going to be doing that for a while. We've got some really interesting companies, and I invite everybody here to come by Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, just down the road, to see kind of what we're doing. So I always look for kind of the next fun thing that keeps me excited. And I have to say, I've never had a job my whole life. My whole life, I do things that I love to do, and it's not a job anymore. Just do it. Every morning you get up thinking, here's 12 things I'm going to do, maybe only do 5 of them, but you just get excited every morning you get up. So I'm still doing that, and I love what I do.
I think one of the coolest things is the factory was an old Bethlehem Steel facility. So there's revitalization of the area involved there as well. So it gives a great backstory. The building. Yeah,
it's 40-year-old. It was built in 1940. It's 70-some years old. So we spent $10 million on renovating the building. And it was really interesting. Fox News showed up today, unannounced, and that young lady took a email from Fox News, and they said they'll be here in 6 minutes, right? Because they were in Bethlehem. They're looking for a town hall meeting for a political event. And so they came in, and they were blown away by the building, and they were going, well, this is perfect to do this. So doing stuff for the community and giving back to the community like Bethlehem, where all the steel was and it went out of business, is really interesting.
Cool. So I appreciate you sharing the background. What I want to know right now is what's the thing that you are most passionate about? What's that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning and gets you most excited about approaching the day?
I would say for me, people. I love stories, and that's probably why I got into media. Had no idea that I'd end up in media, but just meeting the different people that I meet each and every day who are so passionate about what they're doing, and to try to find a way to fix the puzzle or put the puzzle together to help them get to the next level is exciting for me. I always love problem solving. I have a passion for creativity, so that allows that to come through. But I think for me, it's really people, just loving people and helping them.
For me, I don't go to sleep. I just stay up all night thinking about what I'm going to do, and maybe I close my eyes somewhere in between, but I stay excited about what I'm doing, or I just don't do it. So as I said, I've never had a job. I'm just passionate about what I do, and the factory is going to be really interesting because the concept for factory, and you can go online and look at it, factory-llc.com. It's never been done before. this kind of innovation center has never been done, because when you look at a private equity firm, venture capital people, you go to them for money or financing of some type. You go into their really fancy office someplace in New York City, like Barclays Bank or places like that, and all of a sudden you're in their conference room, right? And so you go in the conference room and they bring in the marketing person or the supply chain person or the smart sales guy. And they tell you, here's how you're going to do this. And so I've done this all my life, right? Because I've borrowed a lot of money and been in a lot of conference rooms. So I said, what would it be if you had your own conference room that was like 40,000 square feet, and in that conference room you had everything from packaging, engineering, design, social media, consumer insights, innovation kitchens, sales and marketing people. What if they were all there, and your office was right over there, and all these things were just like right in front of you, and you just walked out of your office and said, oh my gosh, I need packaging today, and walk over and talk about packaging. Or you need a food scientist that's a PhD from Penn State or Harvard or wherever that comes over and says, hey, let me tell you how you can do this, right? Or co-packing experts. They're all right there under one roof. That's my conference room. And that's never been done before. And the reason it hasn't been done, because you got to spend about $10 million to make that happen. And most bankers, as you know, say, no, we're going to spend the $10 million on companies that might have a chance to do something interesting versus a fixed asset. So we said, oh no, we're going to make the fixed assets so the companies will have a place to come to, and that we can grow sooner, faster, with less mistakes. So that's what I get excited about every day.
I get excited about a lot of things. Life in general is exciting. For instance, last night I was sick with the stomach flu or food poisoning. I don't know, but I vomited until about 1 a.m. Yeah, I don't think I'm contagious. I think it was food poisoning. So long story short, though, like, I didn't sleep, and my husband said, you're not going to Penn State. I'm like, I'm going to Penn State, because for me, being around even the whole university is inspiring for me, and all of you are inspiring, and just hearing others' stories. And when I got on my plane from New York to Philadelphia, there was a guy sitting next to me, and I made a joke because I had my, almost 3-month-old with me. I'm like, sorry. And we started talking, and he was coming to Penn State too, and he's a Penn State alum, and he works in, massive food service operations. And so before you know it, I'm sitting on an airplane, and I have a new customer, and we're both Penn State alums and are pumped about going to State College for our respective responsibilities the next 2 days. And then when we're in the Philadelphia airport, I got to meet a Penn State professor that was sitting next to me as well, who does all sports nutrition and all sorts of different product developments. And those are like God winks, I call them, opportunities that come up, and you just have to seize them and make things happen every day. And those are the things I live for. And whether it's, you just got to get up and go and make it happen.
Yep, absolutely.
I think something that I've noticed consistently in entrepreneurs is this deep curiosity and enthusiasm that they just kind of exude a lot of times. And I'm getting that sense from everyone that that's a key piece.
Yeah, you have to be excited every day.
Yeah.
So there's somebody that can tell you no.
You have to be really resilient. So, like, for instance, with packaging, it would be nice if I had someone that could handle packaging down the street, or like right outside my door, because right now, Palm Wonderful, if anyone had Palm Wonderful pomegranate juice, they're trying to sue me over my heart with the circle in, and we trademarked it at the exact same time. So and they want me to change my packaging, which is fine. I mean, they're not, but at the same time, why do I have to change mine and they don't have to change theirs? So these are things you have to, like, instead of just lay down and die, you got to just stand up and figure out whether this is a battle worth having, or if you keep moving on. I mean, I think we need a refresh of branding anyway, so maybe this is another blessing in disguise. So with entrepreneurship, you got to be positive and have different, like, lookouts on everything.
But also, when you do that, say, look, okay, if you'll pay for new packaging, I'll do it. Yes, right, so they'll pay for your new packaging, and they'll do it in a heartbeat. So there you go. So now you just got new packaging.
Free consulting advice. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
Yeah. It's all like trade-offs, right?
And I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to wake up to solve a problem every single day. You're creating something from nothing. So there's no manual that you're going to open up or book that you're going to go to tell you what to do next. And as you said, being resilient and persistent to persevere is really something that you have to think about and say, does this lifestyle really fit in with what I want to do? Because honestly, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's a cool buzzword right now, but there are so many hats you have to wear early on and so many things you have to tackle along the journey. and it is a lifestyle. And so to know that the exciting thing is everything is different, or every day is different. And if you do like puzzles and problem solving, it's amazing. But if you don't, then maybe surround yourself with those people that do. But do be prepared for those things that come up that's so unexpected like that can take you down another path. But it's her perspective that makes it exciting. It's not like, oh no, we got to change our path. What are we going to do? But, oh, well, we need a refresh anyway, and they're going to pay for it. And that's the viewpoint that you have to take when you do hit a roadblock.
And, yeah, there's no question about that. And one of the key things too is that sometimes entrepreneurs think they can do everything, and that's one of your biggest mistakes, is that you have to look in the mirror and you have to figure out who you are and what you do well, really well. Not well, but really well. And that's what you do. And then everything outside of that, you get people to help you. Because if you think you can do it all, you will fail, because there's nobody that can do it all. So learning early what you're good at, marketing, sales, finance, product development, whatever it is, do that, then surround yourself with the other talents. Because if you try to do it all, you will fail. So understanding early and often who you are, and a lot of times you got to look in that mirror every day and say, okay, I'm good at this, I'm going to go do that. And try not to do something you're not good at, because it's a problem.
I have a question. Have you guys heard of the E-Myth, the book? How many, show of hands, read that book? Okay, I think everyone should go out and get that book. And when I first read it, when I started reading the first few chapters, I was kind of getting a little upset. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean the myth of entrepreneurship? But it's so true, because you probably, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you probably do a lot of things well. But there are some things that you're probably really gifted at. And if you could zero in on that early on and build your business with you outside of the business, that's probably what you want to do. You could always opt to do the day-to-day, but from the onset, if you go in with the mindset, I'm going to be the owner, not the operator, it will help you in terms of burnout. Because a lot of entrepreneurs do get burnt out because they are doing so many things for so long, and they lose the passion of why they even started that business to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I would say people are your strongest asset. And one of the things I know I don't do well is hire people. Like, I've chosen very poorly in my talent acquisition categories, except interns. Like, I've somehow managed to choose the most amazing interns that do more than any employee that I've ever hired. So
You just keep hiring interns.
exactly. So I don't know whether it's
Price is right.
Exactly. I don't know if it's more me, if them being excited and energized to learn, or if I do a better job mentoring them because I know they're excited and energized. But at the end of the day, one of the things that's really hurt my business is not finding the right talent to help me with things that I can do, but I'm not great at. And to figure out what you're really great at and do it well, that helps your business grow tremendously. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do at Factory, especially since we look at so many businesses, is that we have kind of 4 or 5 things we look at. First of all, we look at the entrepreneur, right? And we talk to he or she, and 50% of my yes or no is based on the entrepreneur. Are they humble? Are they kind? Are they smart at what they're talking about? Are they able to take direction? Because no matter who you are on a new project, you don't know it all. And some people come in with the attitude, I know it all. Well, I'm not interested in even having lunch with that person, to be honest. So the fact is, we look at the entrepreneur because it's really, really important. Second thing we looked at on food or beverage, does it taste good? Because some people will come up with a mix that oh my God, if you eat this, I guarantee you'll be Superman or Superwoman, right?
I mean, I guarantee that. Try it.
Yeah, I'll try it. And I might. But I'm not saying this product by any means. I'm using an example. But if you drink it and you have to hold your nose and drink it, you're not going to sell much of it, right? So you can't get what they call velocity off the shelf in order to get people to come back and buy it again. So you have to have something that tastes good for that market you're selling it to. So they'll say, oh my gosh, this is really great. I'm going to buy 6 of these and take them all home, right? And I'm going to drink them all week. So you have to have something that tastes good. And then next thing, you have to have something that you've got some IP around. Because if you don't have IP around it, and you come up with a really good idea, is that everybody's going to be fast followers. Because everybody out there is watching what the other person's doing, and all of a sudden you go, oh, this is a really great idea. And here's an example, coconut water, right? Coconut water come out, and we went straight up. But coconuts are everywhere. Thailand, South America, Caribbean, and in places I've never even heard of before they have coconuts. So all of a sudden, everybody was buying coconuts and making coconut water, and the coconut water was up and straight back down because they flooded the market with coconut water. So that's kind of an interesting example, but that's no IP around it, right? Put it in a package, put it in the cooler, mix it with something or whatever, and it's the same. So you have to have some IP around it. And the last thing is you got to be able to have enough margin in your business so that you make some money. Because if you don't have any margin in it, I see people going, oh man, this has got like 10 points of margin in it. Well, wait, your trade promotion's 15, so that means you're losing 5 before you even start. So you really have to understand the financing and the margin of how it all works before you get started. So there's several tricks to talking about a few things to everybody before you get too far down the road.
So I'd really like to delve deeper into this entrepreneurial mindset. And if we could continue on what you called the roadblocks. And there are many, whether it's getting rejected over funding, having family that would wish you would pursue something more stable. How do you deal with this? How do you keep the faith? How do you stay persistent? How do you have a clear-eyed assessment of yourself, know what you do well, know what you need to work on without beating yourself up? Let's talk about the most challenging things and how you push through that.
I would say knowing yourself is the first and foremost, and we touched on that a little bit. But I think that your own personal story is what's going to drive your brand story and what you create and ultimately turn into success, whatever success is defined for you. So understanding what is it that you do so uniquely and differently that you can apply to a product that answers a need. I think also balance is super important. And because we're very driven, and I remember doing the all-nighters with a newborn and a toddler, and I wasn't tired. But at some point, you are going to hit a point of fatigue. And if you aren't alert and or healthy because you're stressed or not sleeping enough, you're not going to create the best product. You're not going to have the best pitch or whatever. So finding balance is also really key. Knowing the game, right? This is a game you're playing. Know the rules, know your competitors. If you were putting together a team from scratch to play whatever sport, may it be rugby, we were talking about that earlier, or soccer or basketball. You're going to go, if you've never played basketball before, you're going to learn the rules. You're going to learn what is it going to take to get the best team members there. And what do they need to do to beat the opposition? So also treat your business as if you were at a sports, or if you were creating a team, like a real life sports team. And I always see the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. And that's how I get through my obstacles. So I don't really see them as obstacles. They're challenges that force me to grow, that take me out of my comfort zone, maybe. But I've had a lot of quote unquote failures along the way. But I look at them as, whoa, okay, I'll never do that again. And then what did I learn from that? What am I going to take from that? Because there's a reason why I came and I encountered that experience. And how do I use that to my benefit?
I mean, so there's a lot of techniques. So when I first started, I built an integrated manufacturing facility. So we bought all the equipment. We cold press juicers, high pressure processing machine, just not cheap materials for a facility. But there was no one that was making cold pressed juice and high pressure processing it under the same roof when I started. So I wanted the best product on the market, and you needed to make it yourself to do that. So the first couple years I worked definitely over 100 hours, if not 120, and people look at me like, that's not possible. I mean, it is. When you have a goal in mind and you want to see it come to fruition, you make it happen and you do whatever it takes. And there'd be times I was fixing a high pressure processing machine, and I'm not an engineer, and this thing is huge, massive, thousands of pounds, and having to read electronic schematics, and it was in European because it was built in Spain, the machine. So like trying to understand in backwards math equations that didn't make sense to me, but fixing it and finding a way, or I was going to lose 30 grand worth of product. So I would say in the early years I was crazy and I didn't have a family yet, and I just tended to hold on to the steering wheel and try to do everything, and I realized it wasn't sustainable pretty quickly. And as I've evolved, there's been other reasons, like having children has been helpful. I think I'm more productive now that I have 2 kids than I was before having children, because I want to make time for them, versus like I would just work constantly, not know how to say no to things. And also I think what's really important is sticking to a schedule. So some people love to have meetings that will go on, and you just need to be like, we had scheduled 30 minutes. Like I got to move on to the next, because if you let that get away from you, then you realize your day's gone. So that's one key piece of advice, is to stick to your meeting times, unless like there's some serendipitous stuff that keeps going. But at the end of the day, like that's rare. Just keep it tight. Right?
Yeah, totally. So, I could talk for days and weeks and months about all these things. But I think financing is probably one of the keys for me, that I see so many people fail because of money. They're either spending way too much time trying to raise money, or once they get the money, they spend it foolishly. They hire the wrong people. They go, oh, that guy from General Mills, I mean, he was vice president of whatever. We got to hire him, and he's $300,000 or $400,000, and he'll make us successful. He comes in, he has no idea how to run a small business. It's like, oh my God, 6 months later you have to fire him, give him severance, and then you've lost 6 months of your life, right? So the fact is, the interns, and a lot of operating capital, and products and raw materials. Truth is, you could probably hire an intern right from this room and do just as good by reading the manual and making a few small mistakes and moving forward. So I think financing for me is really, really important, to get the right financing. And there's kind of 2 ways to do it. Some people do friends and family and get friends and family money to come in and raise $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000 and get started and see. And I think that's maybe okay to test things, just to test the fashion or test the product and see if maybe it tastes okay or it looks okay. But then you got, okay, now, if I'm really going to do this, I got to put a business plan ahead in my head and say, this is going to cost me $18 million to do this. So now I'm going to put a plan together. I've got enough little proof of concept that I'm going to go out and I'm going to raise the $18 million. And then you raise it all, and then you have the capital you need to go out and do it. Because otherwise what happens, you raise $300,000 and it's kind of working. Then you got to go out and raise another $300,000, so you spend half your time running around trying to have these finance meetings and not running your business. Then you get that $300,000 because you don't want to give up your company to somebody else, because every time you have a fundraising, you give equity away, or you have some type of convertible note that converts into equity. So all of a sudden I'll give you 2 quick examples. One, there's a cold brew coffee company we were looking at, because cold brew coffee is kind of interesting, but again, no barrier to entry. Everybody can start a cold brew coffee company. So we were kind of interested in this one. We were looking around. We talked to the guy, and I said, well, how much of the business do you own? He goes, 10%. I'm like, wait, you own 10% of the business and you're the founder? He says, yeah. Over the last 4 years, I've had all these fundraisers, and now I only own 10%. No motivation. I mean, all the motivation is gone. He might as well close the door and leave, because he gave his whole business away, and he wanted me to invest. What, am I going to take the last 10% and be the cold brew coffee master? Negative. So that's not what I do. And to give you an example of one of the things I did when I started, which is kind of the same but a lot different, I guess, is that when I started the company, the American Italian Pasta Company, which is the largest producer of pasta in North America now and number 2 in the world, I started out, I owned 100% of the company. I go, yeah, man, I'm going to be the pasta king. And then pretty soon I said, the bank, I borrowed $52 million, and the bank said, okay, but Mr. Thompson, you've never made any spaghetti before. We really want you to have a partner that has made spaghetti. And I didn't want anybody in America, because everybody in America made American pasta. I wanted true Italian pasta. So I went back to Italy and spent some time over there, beat around. I got the 7th largest producer of pasta in Italy to be my partner. He's been in business 200 years. So anyway, long story, the only way he'd invest is own 50%. I didn't want 50%. I don't even need 10 or 15% partner. But all of a sudden I said, okay, so let's do this. So it's not 49-51, it's 50-50. And they just stay in a room until they beat you up, and you might as well give them 51%. But anyway, is that it's 50-50. So he became my partner. So now I own 50%, and he owned 50%. So then pretty soon it comes along, we're doing building some other factories, and I borrow $75 million with Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley owns 25%. So now my 50 went to 25%, right? So now only 25%. I'm doing all the work. I'm working 120 hours a week and building this big factory, multiple factories, and doing all the work, and I own 25%. The bank standing there calling me, hey, how you doing, Mr. Thompson? Is that the Italian guys from Italy? Hey, how you doing over there in America? You know, so it's like, dude, so I'm doing all the work and I only got 25%. Then we get ready to go public, take it public, Goldman Sachs, and when we do that, we had to do some other internal financing, and now I own 12.5%. I was like, oh my God. I own 12.5% after like 9 years, 10 years of working my butt off. But guess what? We went public for $600 million, and we sold it for $1.6 billion at the end of the day. So, okay, if you do that math, that's not bad math for a 30-year-old kid that busted his ass for the last 15 years, or 9 years it was. So you have to figure out where you're going to be, right? Because if you do the cold brew coffee guy, you're screwed, because he didn't raise the money. I raised all the money, $52 million at once, and I got enough partners that were big enough to, like Morgan Stanley, saying they're going to put money in. So they want to keep you motivated, and I want to be motivated to have a big exit, right? So you have to think about those things. So money is a problem, and money is a solution. You have to figure out which one it is for you.
And I just off of the money thing and raising, one thing that I did wrong is I did a lot of things wrong, but I mean,
Still here,
yeah,
though.
I'm
You're
still here.
here.
I'm still
You're still
fighting.
kicking.
I'm still fighting. So I mean, I would say the biggest mistake was day one. I went into business with two professors at UVA actually that were going to put 1.5 million into the business, and they had a massive fight after only putting in 300,000. So it was like 3 months into it, but we had a high pressure processing machine showing up and all of these things showing up.
That's multi-million-dollar machine.
Yes, exactly. So instead of, the small guy we got was 525,000, but still you needed a lot of capital to start a beverage business. And long story short, I basically have been fixing that one over $1 million deficit, $1.1 million deficit since day one. So raising from people, having people buy them out when really I should have just let it go bankrupt and buy it myself for 100%.
free,
Yeah, exactly. For like $10, right? But I didn't because I was so worried about like my integrity and, reputation, exactly, and not delivering on this thing that I said I was going to build. And so instead of like stepping back and taking a deep breath, I was, 27 years old, and I was freaking out that I was looking like an idiot because of these two professors that went back on their word. And I just pieced it together. And so we kind of been piecing it together every day since. So when I see some companies get to X in sales, I think about how much time I spend manufacturing. I only spent about 10% of my time on sales. And so now we're doing over $1.5 million. But now finally this year I can focus all on sales because I have these legal's another big thing. Don't cheap out on legal. Find a good lawyer because it's another mistake I made. And so good lawyers and figuring out what you need from the beginning and making sure the capital is actually there, not BS, because you don't want to be screwed.
On the capital side, when I raised my first amount of capital, my mistake was hiring the wrong people. And at that point, I had a business advisor and business coach. I was like, okay, I got the money. I'm good. I don't need her anymore. I know everything. Wrong. And so surround yourself with people that know much more than you do, and don't ever feel like you've gotten to the point where you know enough not to need them. Having that right advice at the right time is crucial in your business. So I got into a lot of debt because I just ran through my cash and was not using my Amex card to take care of operating expenses. And
Did your husband know that?
Yeah, he wasn't too happy about that. And like I said, my mistakes always came really big. And that was pretty scary, being in that position like that quickly. And I realized that I knew what the mistake was, and so if either a mentor, an advisor, or a coach, they are worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, even at this stage of my career, I have way smarter people around me than I am.
All right, so we talked about some mistakes. Let's talk about what went right. When was the time that you really said, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm doing that, I got this, I'm learning, and when was that point where you really felt like, this is me, I'm doing it?
I mean, I don't know if you ever feel like I'm an entrepreneur. I think it's a title that's thrown out like way too much. No offense, because we are here at Startup Week, hashtag. However, I think it's when you realize that you've taken a vision and turned it into reality, because we can all sit around, drink beer, or whatever, drink tea, whatever you're into, and talk about ideas all night long or day long, or in classrooms. There's a case method or whatever way you're studying, and you can talk all day about ideas. And the difference between someone who has great ideas, because great ideas are everywhere every single day, is someone who can take a great idea and turn it into something, like turn it into...
Execute.
Yeah, exactly. Execute and get it done, because the problem is if someone has a great idea and they can't sell their product, then you'd spend $100,000 putting together something that you can't execute on. So I would say the moment I realized I was an entrepreneur was not what I would say we're defining an entrepreneur here as, is someone that's getting a project to fruition. It was like the Field of Dreams. I basically this movie is probably no one's seen it in here. Has anyone seen the Field of Dreams? It's Kevin Costner. Thank you.
Always
guys.
makes me cry.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. So it's basically, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's about Kevin Costner. These baseball players show up to him and tell him he should build a baseball field in the middle of a cornfield, and everyone thinks he's crazy, and his house is basically being taken by the bank. But
If you build it, he will come.
Yes, exactly. And so the field is built and people come, and then they make money. That seems to be the end of the movie. But so when I started to build this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is literally like the Field of Dreams, because I'm building this factory. I don't have any customers. And I just believed so deep in my heart that this was a real product that was better than anything else on the market, that I was just going to make it happen. And the moment the factory opened, there was a government shutdown in October 2013, so I couldn't get FDA clearance. So I had to wait another 5 to 6 weeks before I could start selling my product. And I finally got the okay. And I remember Whole Foods Charlottesville was one of my first customers. And I remember driving my product in a cooler over to Whole Foods Charlottesville and putting it on the shelf. And it had been 6 months from the day when I saw Blueprint on the shelf and decided I was going to start Lumi, to fully integrated manufacturing facility and a FDA-approved product on the shelf. So that's like a very fast timeline. And I walked out of the store and I got in the car and I finally took a deep breath. And I'm not like an emotional person, but I did cry for the first time. And I realized that I actually made it happen, and I couldn't believe it. And then there was another time in Florida, we sell at the fresh markets, and I was in Miami, incredibly hungover. My juice is really great for that. And I walked into the fresh market and I picked it up and I was like, whoa, like I'm in another state far away, and here it is. And then another time, I have 50 professional sports teams that buy from me, and one day it was Labor Day weekend, and I thought I was going to have the weekend off, which was a joke. Like, as entrepreneurs, you never really have a weekend off. And the machine broke at 6 a.m. There was this ring that popped on it that needed to be replaced, or I couldn't process product. And so I was there all day waiting. We had it same date from Miami. Actually, ironically, it was being flown up to Charlottesville so that we could fix the machine. And at 5 p.m. on Friday evening of Labor Day, I get a call from the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C., and this guy's like, hey, I'm Thomas Knox calling from the Washington Wizards. It's like, hey, Thomas, we don't have any money to like do marketing with you, but thanks for calling. And I go to hang up, and he's like, no, I'm the strength and conditioning coach for the Washington Wizards. Like, I'm interested in your product for our team. And I never thought about selling to sports before. And so this moment where I wasn't even supposed to be in the office and something happened that was really bad that morning turned into the next day. He and his wife drove down. They toured the facility. And, professional sports is over 30% of my business right now. So I would say that's another moment where I was like, whoa. So you just got to celebrate the small wins.
You got to show up to make it happen.
Exactly.
Those sound like big wins.
I mean, they're good, yeah. And then people sometimes are like, whoa, you have a business that's doing that well. But I'm like, it's not that well because our margins aren't where they need to be. So you're always harder on yourself than everyone else.
I've been very, very fortunate. So I've had a lot of really cool opportunities. But I've really, until this last several years, the word entrepreneurism, but I don't know, kind of a visionary, right? I have a vision. I want to do something and go make it happen. And when I did one of my first big deals was the American Italian Pasta Company. Everybody said, you're not even Italian. Why are you building a pasta factory? It's like back in the day, everybody just ate maybe spaghetti once a month, or every other month you had pasta or something. And when I started the project, it took me a lot of years to put it together and get it financed and build them, because the first building was 125,000 square feet today, and I bought 100 acres to build this thing on out in the middle, outside of Kansas City. And why are you buying 100 acres of land? Well, today if you go there, it's got 2 million square feet of building on it, million square feet of manufacturing, million square feet of warehouse, and the whole 100 acres is developed. I sold the ConAgra. But for me, it's building a business and then selling it, right? Is that I've learned a long time ago that I don't need to be a family business forever, and it's my thing, right? A lot of people can't let go. You build something, it's mine, I can't really let go. And my dad, bless his heart, he's 96 and still kicking, and got married a few years ago. When he was like 91, he got married again. And my dad, the last week or so, he called me and said, "Hey, son, I'm going to give up my car at 95. You're giving up your car?" He says, yeah, I'm 95. I said, "How are you going to get around?" He says, "Well, there's a bus goes by my house." And I said, "No, you can take the bus." And he says, yeah, but the driver's really cute. I go, "Dad, you're married now. Stop that." So anyway, this is a side story. When we built the American Italian Pasta Company and we built all that, and you saw the machines start running and pasta coming out the back end, and I didn't have any customers either. I built the whole thing, and we ended up with a contract with Cisco Corporation, the food service business, and pretty soon we were in 400,000 schools, restaurants, hotels, cruise ships, jails, which I've never been there. But places around the country, you'd show up and you'd see your pasta at a restaurant. And you say, "Hey, what kind of pasta are you making back there?" And they bring it out and go, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." But anyway, it's really fun to see your product or your clothes. That somebody's walking by and say, "Hey, that's my design," right? So it just gives you a lot of good feeling about doing that, and you'll do other ones, right? But the thing is, you can't get enamored with one product and say, "I'm doing this the rest of my life." You have to think about how you're going to leverage it, right? So that if you have success on this one, then it's much easier to do the next one, because you still start building up a track record. People want to look at a track record that you've done something successful before. And if you build it up, it can keep going up and up and up and up, right? But if you don't have that first win, failure's not bad, because you learn, but you still have to have some wins in the bucket in order to move on.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur." I think that I see it more as a lifestyle. I would say I would call myself a creative. I love to create things. I like to bring things to life that don't necessarily exist. Hence, for children, And when the wins happen, those big wins happen, and either it's a family member or a friend, and they're like, "Oh, that's so exciting. Aren't you excited?" And I'll take a moment to celebrate, but then I'm like, "Okay, I got to get the next thing." Like, you're always
back to work.
And because there's so many things that you want to accomplish, and yes, it is exciting to get the celebrities or to find those gems and see them develop. But what else can you do? Because I think we're all here to serve the greater good. So our goal is to deliver something that's going to benefit our communities in some way. And so we're always looking to push the fold and always looking to create something that's better. So for me, it's okay, well, what can I do that's better? What can I do to do more, to help more? And so, yeah, I probably don't celebrate those wins enough, take enough time to sit but there's so much more to do.
I'll pat you on the back. But one last thing for me, for sure, is that you think about who you are, right? And think about what your passion is. Because as I said when we first started, if you find out what your passion is, what your love is, you're not really working. You're doing something you love to do. But on the other hand, you have to think about where that's going to put you in life, right? Do you want to own a G5 airplane and fly around in it? Well, okay, that's a goal, but figure out how you're going to do that, and you don't do it by painting something and selling it for $5, right? That's a different lifestyle. That's okay too. You just have to kind of line your lifestyle of what you want to do in life with what you're about to do. Because if you don't do that, you're just completely crazy, you know? So think about what your passion is, think about where you want to be in life, and start kind of calibrating those two things, because it's really important to do that while you're young. And when you're young, at this age, you can take as much risk as you want. You can fail 100 times, you can go back and live with mom, go with the dorm room, live with your buddy, whatever. But when you have 4 kids, and you have 2 kids, a mortgage, cars, equipment financing, shareholders, you can't take a lot of risk. The risk factor starts going way down because you want to be sure you're going to be successful in doing it. So now is the time you can get out there and take that risk for sure. So do it.
I would just,
go ahead.
sorry, just jumping in on that. You know, you guys are, a lot of you are younger, and you don't really think about, okay, well, what about a life partner? I mean, but if you do choose to find someone that you want to at least try to spend your life with, yeah, you need to make sure that they can support you if you decide to be an entrepreneur, and that they're okay with risk too, because it's not for everybody. I mean, it literally, like, I think that's part of the problem. People I've hired, they didn't realize how entrepreneurial and how you have to do everything, and they got way over their skis, and it created problems in their personal life because they weren't able to, you know, separate the two. And it takes a special breed, I think, to respect the life of entrepreneurs. So that would be it.
No, absolutely. The life partner is very important. Otherwise, you're struggling fast.
So before we open up for questions, I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit right now, what podcast are you listening to? What books are you reading? Which websites are you going to? What right now is feeding your understanding of your industry, of your business? What's influencing you right now?
I'll go first. I'm so bad at anything. I'll read.
You don't have enough time.
Yeah, I don't read anything. I mean, I'll read the paper and that's it. Like, I don't do podcasts. I have a Penn State text chain still. I've been out of school for over 10 years, and we still all text each other. And so there's random podcasts or news articles that come through there, and that's how I get my media from them. But I don't go out of my way right now, unfortunately. So if you have any recommendations, send them my way.
Same with me. Us entrepreneurs, we get busy, and so it's not like we spend a lot of time reading books about how you make something work, because we're the people that actually make it work, right? So the fact is that when whatever business you're in, whether it's the pasta business or pet food business or the factory business, you need to understand where your investments are headed, right? So for us, we're in the natural food space. So things like this is that, you know, what are the demographics? Where does it sell? What pricing? So you look at data that's like spends data. You look at packaging designs, like what's the coolest new package? What package, you know, you're not going to get sued for, or you might get sued and get a lot of publicity out of it. And so you might think about the publicity before you change it, right? Because big guy, that little guy worth millions of dollars worth of PR. So you have to seriously. I've done that multiple times in my career. So there's just a lot of that goes on, right? So I think that you're reading and looking at things that affect you and your business today, right? Is what I do. So I read a lot of articles, but I read like the first paragraph or the second paragraph, and then if it's interesting, I might read the rest of it later. But I need to be sure that I have those experts that work with me. And I always have a thing that nobody works for me. Everybody works with me, right? And we don't have employees. We have team members. And everybody is kind of equal. Get rid of all the bureaucracy and the management. You can call me CEO, manager, whatever, but no, I'll sweep the floor. I'll do whatever's necessary. Somebody's not doing the job right, I'll show them how to do it. So those kinds of things I want to teach the people that work with us. So I do more than I read.
I would say I have to stay on top of a lot of trends across those industries. So I get a lot of trade newsletters that are sent to me. I will read the headlines and dive deeper when I need to. But I think I mentioned earlier, balance is really important for you to stay inspired and productive. And so finding those things that turn you on outside of your business, I think is important. And to find those down times to take in that, whatever it is, if going for a walk, going to the gym, watching a great movie, writing poetry, spending time with your friends and family. That's really hard because when you're an entrepreneur, you're so driven and so focused. But carving out that time because you might get the next great idea while you're watching your favorite TV show. And so that's something to keep in mind. So I do enjoy trying to find the time to do that. Side note, so out of left field, I decided to audition for a play. And so I wanted to sort of kick up my creativity a little notch and go outside my comfort zone. So I was like, okay, what could I do that's so outside my comfort zone? Yeah, I could pretend like I'm an actor because I never acted before. So I auditioned for a play and I got the role. So now I am going to be in a play in a few weeks, and that is so outside my comfort zone, but it's inspiring me on my day job. So,
I love that. Jolt to the system.
yeah.
All right, so I want to open it up for questions, and I just ask that you're patient for a second because I'll bring the mic to you so that we can make sure the live stream hears your wonderful question. All right, this is easy. I don't have to walk very far.
Nice. Thank you. Can you hear me? You can't really hear it from like over here. If somebody wanted to go to your factory, would they need to set an appointment? Can they just walk in? How would that work?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to come in and just look at the place, you can just show up because it's a 40,000 square foot building. We have kind of a big entrance when you come in, and you come in, take a look around, and take a walk around. So no big deal. If you wanted to actually talk to somebody about a project or something, you'd need to make an appointment so that person would be available. But you can look at it online. You can see a lot of stuff at factory-llc.com. It's a cool place, and if you're in Bethlehem, come by.
All right, perfect. I'll be there.
Good.
I'm actually
Stop
going there
by.
tomorrow anyways.
Just come in.
So, yeah, I'm just
You'll
gonna come
see
in.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hello? Check. So I don't know whether you can hear me better now, but so I probably have more than one question, but like let's go through it one by one. So first of all, I think that one of the problems or like one of the issues I see is like around my circle of people who really want to be an entrepreneur is like we sometimes are full of ideas. But I think that practically, we only have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. So we probably need to prioritize and focus on, especially when all of the ideas are basically building from scratch. How do you choose which one you really want to do? We all have very broad interests, and that's why we come up with so many ideas in different industries, literally. So how do we start with one, or at least?
For me, I find if you are really creative, narrowing down the idea to be difficult. So I feel you on that. But also seeing what the need is, because a lot of people create great things and there's no need or demand for it. So if you can sort of pre-sell what you're doing and you're like, whoa, out of A through C, let's say, B is really on fire. They're all great ideas. Let's start with B because there's actually a demand for that. So that's one way of narrowing it down.
Yeah, for me, it's not about having. If you got 100 ideas, you need to go do something else. Seriously, because if you have 100 ideas or 50 ideas or 20 ideas, you're not passionate about any of those. Because if you're passionate, you'd have one, and say, "This is the one I'm doing." So people sit around and say, "Oh, let's think about all the how many fish tanks do we have? Did it need to be thicker, bigger, taller? Well, that's an idea. Okay, how many pumps? So that's not an entrepreneur. That's just a guy looking for a business deal. So when you become an entrepreneur, you feel something, you passionate about something, and then you do the background work, is it sellable, does it have a margin, is it blah, blah, blah. But it's not thinking about 100 ideas and picking the best one. That's failure at day one.
It's so difficult. But I think, for me, I did have a few ideas, but then it's when I had that moment in the grocery store that it was okay, this is the one that I'm going to pursue. So you feel it, right? It just comes to you. I was going to do a pasta sauce, Yemenis, because that was my grandmother. They're Italian. My Italian side of the family developed the tomato strainer and the pizzelle iron, and they were blacksmiths in Italy.
It's in her blood. It's in her blood.
But there's so many pasta sauces. It was more of like, okay, at the time I started Lumi, there was really no other juice companies except SUW and Blueprint. So now there's a bunch, but now they've all died, and there's just a few of us that are surviving. So, you just gotta you find that one, it'll pop.
So another question, like I was thinking about how to ask, but let me just ask this way, like think about like your like an entrepreneur or like your company or your business as a ship. So do you actually need to wait for the wind, or actually can you build a motor on it? I mean, the thing is, like, for example, like, so I think like what I mean by this is like, for example, like looking around, like, especially when you do a risk analysis, I can see like a lot of things that doesn't work. Like it is not like tailwind, it's headwind. So like, so for example, like you all mentioned like how crazy you worked, and I'm known for like a person who is not good at staying up. I mean, like keeping energetic after, like days or weeks of like, lacking rest or like overwhelmingly, energy. But
how
and
about
also
years?
like,
how about years, not days or weeks, years?
Yeah,
years.
And also other things is like, for example, like when you talk about team building, I just feel like, like sometimes it's kind of really hard to find the right people around you. Like I don't even know like when the right people, like the right, partner, like the people, like, the team you have to build to be an entrepreneur. Like I just don't see them like right away. But is there actually a way to like make it happen, or do you actually have to? You have
There's
to
no
wait.
shortcut, my friend. There's no shortcut.
Yeah, there's definitely not a shortcut. But I think that, as Hillary mentioned, there's going to be an idea that's going to propel you, that you're not going to be able to let go. And when you really are passionate about something and you share that idea, people are going to want to help you bring that to life. And so, but it has to start with you, and it has to start, when I said to go back to your personal story, like what makes you different, what makes you tick, and like, I don't like to do this or that. That's good to know those things that you don't like, because you're going to build your business around the lifestyle that you want. You're going to find the team members to fill the gaps in those places that you don't want to go near. So that's really important in terms of starting with yourself. But you are going to find something that's going to just really drive you. And it could be a need, it could be an invention, it could be, someone close to you that has a need, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to step up and I'm going to solve that problem.
All right, anybody else got a question?
Thanks.
Yeah, I was wondering if each of you could say a little bit about the respective startup communities that you belong to and your involvement in those startup communities. So I guess what I'm really looking for is, are you mentoring other entrepreneurs, and are you working with other entrepreneurs on a regular basis to formally or informally to learn and grow?
For me, it's both, because I have a magazine that is for and about entrepreneurs. The team is made up of entrepreneurial individuals, but we also, I believe in mentorship and bringing on interns. So that's a way of mentoring and reaching that startup community, so to speak. I'm not formally attached to a community, but so I do it more so internally. And then I also enjoy doing guest lectures at universities for entrepreneurial or business courses.
For me, my vision's always bigger than I am. So in the Lehigh Valley, which has about 750,000 people, before I placed a factory there, I looked at Boulder, Colorado, I looked at Austin, Texas, I looked at Portland, Oregon, and you never build a business ever because you live someplace. You build it where the right place to build it is. So it makes life a lot easier, right? Distribution, transportation, raw materials, cost of energy, whatever it is. You have to do that analytical analysis. Because if you just build it, like, I live here, so I'm just going to put it right here, it's usually for all the wrong reasons. It's because I live here, right? And that's, for me, a big no. So I looked where I wanted to put this factory. And after I did this analysis, based on a whole lot of things I can talk about, it happened to be in the Lehigh Valley. And it happened to be that I got this building, I did the renovation on the building. So in this building, we're going to do events like Shark Tank events, but we're going to call it the blast furnace. Can you come into the blast furnace? Can you stand the heat? So And it's the old Bethlehem Steel
Pilot
building, right?
coming out soon.
Yeah.
The pilot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking to Fox about it today, Fox Business, or it may be on Netflix. But because if you think about it, Shark Tank, everybody here's watched Shark Tank. Come on, everybody should. So to have some things that are real, like about food, beverage, and pet, that's what we'd focus on. So we'll be working with the startup community to help them do some of these things in the Lehigh Valley. Now, can people come from all over the state of Pennsylvania? Yes. Can people come from all over America or North America or Europe? Yes. So we'll start slow, and that lady right there, raise your hand there, Tara. She's going to be in charge of all that. So, and then we've teamed up with Penn State, as most people here know or may not know, through Launchbox. So we're going to be doing stuff with Launchbox in order to help drive this as well. So our investment is usually in companies at least $2 million in revenue to $20 million for a lot of reasons. But on the other hand, we're going to do a lot of startup stuff for the Lehigh Valley. And my vision is, over the next 10 years, is to turn the Lehigh Valley into the Boulder, Colorado, or Austin, Texas of the East Coast. And we'll do that with all these entrepreneurs.
So as I had mentioned, I went to the University of Virginia, and so I've spent a lot of time guest lecturing at UVA, undergrad and graduate, and then they have an incubator there as well that I teach some courses. And then ultimately, there's different entrepreneurs I work with, and I would say there's entrepreneurs that work with me. And I think one of the most valuable things as an entrepreneur is to find fellow entrepreneurs that you can call and complain about, not complain, but yes, ultimately, talk to, so you're not always sharing it with your family. That's important.
Family's tired of hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Get it done. So, I think it's, I think for me, it brings value and increases my creativity to work with others that are also inspiring and want to do things that are changing the world. So yes, I do often.
And not incubators, but workspaces like WeWork are, and there's so many smaller ones that are throughout the state and throughout the country. To be a part of those, I think is really important. Even if you have an office space to attend those events or meetings, but the energy that you can draw from in terms of being around other entrepreneurs is super important as an entrepreneur.
Any other questions? Any other questions? What over there?
Hi, I have a question for Rich, and it goes back to your pasta company. So I know you spoke about how you had to decide on picking a partner and doing the 50-50 split. So I was just curious if you go into more detail on what you saw in your partner that made you want to work with him, and what made you, I guess, settle for that 50-50, even though that might not have been the most favorable thing for you to do.
You're right. It wasn't the most favorable thing for me to do, but it was the right thing to do, because my partner had 200 years of experience I didn't have in making pasta. Even though I spent 2 years in Italy studying pasta for 2 years, I thought after 2 years, I know everything they know. Wait, they got 200 years, I got 2 years. But at the time, I thought I knew everything I needed to know, right? But my common sense said I should bring these people along. It's a family business, and there's 14 family members that belong to it. And so, I was putting up a lot of money. Now they were going to put up half. I reduced my risk by certain millions of dollars. And they gave me all the technology, and they gave me all the credibility. Because when I went to Cisco, or I went to Public Supermarkets, or I went someplace, it wasn't Richard Thompson, the Pasta King. It was American Italian. I was the American. He was the American-Italian Pasta Company. And I've got 200 years of experience over here. And I got this fast-talking entrepreneur kid that's going to sell you something. But this person brought me all the credibility. So the person over here I'm selling to goes, okay, I can do that. And so I understood that it brought me a lot of value, and I wanted to succeed. And it didn't really matter if I had 100% or 5%. I just wanted to succeed. After you borrow $52 million, you want to pay it back to the bank. And if I have to give up 50% to do that, then my chances were way higher I was going to do it with a partner like that than me struggling by myself. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
And this is a question for everybody. I just started an LLC about a couple months ago. I had the opportunity to get a food truck. My grandfather started about 20 years ago, and we never really did anything. It was just a sole proprietorship, no marketing, no nothing. We got all our like advertisements through the paper and stuff like that. And this year, like I've taken a step further with the LLC, like having a bank account and stuff like that, and making a website. And now, like I see myself, I'm like the accountant, I'm the web developer, I'm the financier person. At what point do you ask for help? And like I know I'm putting in like 16-hour days, and I love what I do and stuff like that. But and I feel like I could keep this up for like a couple years. But at what point do you ask yourself to like ask for help? And when did you see that in your guys' careers?
As soon as possible.
Because like the main thing's like money, and so as a small business, like I don't have money to go hire like consultant service and stuff like that. And like I want to do it myself, kind of.
Well, you could do. I mean, there are interns. There are companies that you can barter with as well, and look for strategic partnerships. There's something about other entrepreneurs and startups that everyone is rooting for you to succeed. And so look at those companies that are similar in size to what you're doing and saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Is there something that we can do together? Or, is there a barter service? And then you'll be surprised if you go to your local schools, colleges, or high schools, people would be willing to help you as well in terms of filling in some man hours. So that could be one way to start. But as soon as you can, I would try to get help in the areas that you're not strong in.
Yeah, like how much of your time is accounting?
Like after school, like all my time is just doing that. Like I'll stay up till like 2
Okay,
a.m.
so
normally.
that's what you should focus on. That's the most critical part of your business, is understanding that money's being put to the right spots, because cleanup is more expensive than doing it in real time. So I would say look for alternative accounting agencies. So that was taking up a lot of my day, and that's when I decided to outsource it to someone who that's what they do, right? And so mine's more expensive per month because I have a larger business. But you can probably either talk to the Smeal College of Business. Are you a student here?
Oh yeah, I'm in the hospitality management major.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Smeal.
I got something for you. Come and see me afterwards. You take it back to Donna. You know Donna over there?
I don't think so.
Donna runs the place.
Oh, the dean of the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
He doesn't call her Donna.
Donna. Oh.
He formalities.
Sorry. I got something for Donna you could deliver for me. You get a lot of points.
But I would say reach out to the Smeal College. There might be a student who loves accounting and is an accounting major that could help you for nothing. I mean, or some dollars.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Well, this advice is great. This advice is great. My advice is completely different, because my mind thinks completely different. So if you're good at the food truck and you understand the food truck business, is that then I scratch my head and go, wait, there's no barrier to entry. Everybody can get in the food truck. And I don't know what you're selling in the food truck.
Mexican food tacos.
Don't even tell me. So I might want to eat it. So the thing is, guy down the street can get a truck and do the same thing you're doing and says, my recipe is better than your recipe. So if you have the food truck experience, what can I do with my food truck that's different than everybody else, right? So I said, well, wait, all these large CPG companies, right, they need sampling. So maybe I could take my food truck and who's tacos, what Mexican sauce could we advertise and get them to sponsor my food truck, and all my tacos have this kind of hot sauce on it, right? And all of a sudden you're making money from day one because they're paying you to sell your food, right? So then all of a sudden you got two trucks, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, doing the same thing, and then 4, then 5, then 6, and you got somebody paying for all of them. So then you sell the whole business to somebody else that's in the sampling business for some other part of the country. So how do you build that business to turn it into a big business and sell it to somebody? That's where my mind goes. Just different.
Thank you.
That's a good idea. I kind of want to do it now.
I know. Focus. Juice. All right. One more question and we're done. Wait, that guy's a plant.
Hello, my name is Kofi Quenu, and I'm also from the Lehigh Valley. And over my winter and spring break, I was fortunate enough to work at Factory with Tim Mattson in the social media department. And I was there for the first week with my brother, and one of the first things we realized was that working at Factory really felt like a community more than like a workspace. And so my question for you, Mr. Thompson, is how did you go about creating your team to make it feel like such a close-knit, connected environment and community within Factory? Because I've shadowed all over the Lehigh Valley at like City Center and like Alexander Building and Construction Corp. And it was definitely like a unique experience, I think, like helping out there at Factory. So
Cool. Thanks for saying that. But it's people like you, right? So the whole thing people talk about all the time is people. But a lot of people just hire people to, say, fill a position, or they really don't care what that person says or does. We do, right? So the fact is that I usually see everybody or talk to everybody before they get hired. So I'm old and been around a while, so I can look in your eyes and I can talk to you for 5 minutes and I can tell whether you really mean what you say, or you're going to have the same type of enthusiasm that we have. And then I tell everybody, I say, this is not a family, right? We're not running a family business here. We're running a team, right? And the team, it's kind of like a family in certain ways, but we want to be like Penn State. We want to win, right? We want to win. So if you want to be on a winning team and you got a winning attitude and you got a winning performance, then show up and let's get going. And we're going to, like a coach, we're going to give you some coaching and we're going to tell you to do this. And when you see people walking around the factory, they're not slouching around. They're like walking, right? They got a mission. They're going to do something, right? But we want to make the work environment fun and interesting. And you know, if somebody's got to leave for an hour, I don't care, leave. But, you know, we got a mission, and at the end of that day or that week, that better be done, because if it's not, you're not on my team. You're like a slacker, and you're out, right? Then that's what you have to do. So everybody kind of understands they got all the freedom they want, but you got to perform. So, and as we only have 4 companies in there now, but because we just kind of got started, we'll have 20 to 25 companies, so it builds that community you're talking about, where they can all not only get services, but they can talk to each other. Thank you.
I just want to add to the comment that Richard made prior in terms of the gentleman with the food truck. If you can, from day one, think about how you can scale your business, then you'll be able to set up processes to allow it to grow much faster than trying to figure it out midway down the line. And so I'll have team members come up with some great ideas, and I'll immediately shoot back at them, well, okay, what about the cost of this? What about that? And is that something we can scale? You know, come back to me with something that we can scale. So think about that as well when you're creating your business and setting up the processes. How can you scale it to whatever that dollar amount is to get you the lifestyle or the other businesses that you're trying to get from your initial idea?
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Any other ones? All right. And we'll add that we can continue the conversation. There'll be a reception over at Saxby's. Any final thoughts? Richard, I know you brought a book here. I will...
Yeah,
hold it up here.
I brought a few copies. I got 25. If anybody cares for a copy, after I finished Fresh Pet, I hung around for about 6 months and I wrote this book with some of the crazy things I've done. So I'll sign a few of them. Anybody wants a copy, you're welcome to get it. It's on Amazon, actually. I put it on Amazon so all my relatives wouldn't ask me for a free copy, so they can go to Amazon and buy it. You can have a free copy. You can have one. I really appreciate being here tonight, and we have that outside to the right. We've got some honey stingers out there, so everybody take some honey stingers with you if you want a couple. It's one of the companies that we've invested in. We're in 260 universities and 75 sports teams, so we're going to expand that to retail. And yeah, so thank you for having us, and thank you for putting me between these two lovely ladies.
I'm not allowed to sample because of the Pepsi contract. So if you
Screw the Pepsi contract. Be a real entrepreneur. Bring them on in.
We won't tell anyone.
Yeah. So I have more outside, but also you can get 20% off if you go to lumijuice.com. HM for Hillary Murray 20 will give you 20% off. So I'll throw some free juice if you just write in the notes that you're Penn State. I got you covered.
Don't tweet that promo code either.
But you can tweet the promo code. Not that I'm going to throw in free juice when you write Penn State in the notes. There's a notes section when you check out. Don't put that part in.
Secret.
Just for you that stayed.
Well, no. But if you want some really great advice about entrepreneurs in various stages of their business, definitely check out rainmagazine.com. And you can get a ton of perspectives from wearable tech to software companies to fashion to travel lifestyle. So we're here as a resource for you and these entrepreneurs that are sharing their journey and answering questions that you have today. You can get insight from them as well. So that's Rain, like from the sky, but with an E at the end, rainmagazine.com.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great
Thanks, Bill.
questions. Let's have another round of applause for our panel.
Thank you.